Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 7th, 2023. We got a little bit of rain last night, and that was nice. We got 0.18 inches of rain, which was great. We may get some high winds today and very minimal chance of a tornado. Yesterday, Thea and I went down, and the four of the brothers, my three other brothers and myself, all got together at my nephew's restaurant, and along with other family members there as well. It was really nice meeting everyone and seeing everyone. They watched the videos, so I thought I'd say shout out to Jim and Danny and Dave and Johnny. He and his wife own the restaurant in Fulton, New York, and for having a place for us all to get together and all. I'm pretty much a hermit here on the property. So I just wanted to say a shout out to everyone. Today's video I'm going to try and do two things, give you a little bit of an update on where we are with the blue spruce trees. I have posted a video, hopefully it already went up, when I was talking about the need for pruning some of the blue spruce trees because they're very susceptible to Rhizosphere needle casts, fungal organism that affects many different spruce trees, but it really has an affinity for the blue spruce trees. And it starts off at the base of the trees, and that's why I've been doing a lot of the pruning. So I've gotten a fair amount done so far. And the other part of the video, I'm going to try and address one of the questions I get about my going in and ripping out the grapevines that I've done in the forest over the last few years. Which I'll state now that it's far less than 5% of the grapevines, when I address them, that I actually rip them out and pull them out of the trees. But I'll show you one of the reasons why. On a small scale, it's much easier to see with this camera than you can see in the forest itself. So here are some of the piles of some of the blue spruce trimmings here, taking quite a few down there into the big hugelkultur pits. And so we're going up along the road here, which I mentioned in a previous video. I really hate doing this for two reasons. It's work. And the other reason is because I love the beauty of the Colorado blue spruce trees and their foliage going right down to the ground level. And there's lots of comfrey I planted in between these. So these ones I already piled up all the trimmings from them, and they're in the hugelkultur pit. And you can see I've been working this along the way. These are some of the Chinese chestnut trees here, and tupulas and Chinese chestnut trees in these tree tubes as well. But so clearing all of the dead material from the trunks of these Colorado blue spruces. Here we have some poison ivy in this one, and I just cut off the bottoms. This is to address the other question with the grapevines. Even though this is poison ivy, that will die back. The volume of foliage in this tree won't have a significant impact on the health of this tree. This is some grapevine. You can see that's up in this tree. I'm not sure that this is showing up with the background and all, but that's all grapevine in this tree. And if you look at this tree, its health compared to the other trees, the ones that don't have the vines in them, they are stunted. And you look at the diameter of the trunks as well. So that's a significant factor. So this is one that didn't have any vines in it. This one had small amounts in, and I did pull those ones down. You'll see with some of these. I'll just go along in here just to give an example. And now I'm gonna, instead of making big piles in other places, I'll come along with Mini-Me with a grapple and grab some of this. So we'll come down here a little bit further. And these ones didn't have much vine in them at all. I just cut them off and pulled out. They only just started. Now, none of these trees had any vines in them 5 years ago. So here's an example of this tree, which only had minimal poison ivy. You may be able to see it up in there. And this one that had quite a bit in there, but it did also have some ash trees that were growing up in the base. So it isn't quite as good. This one I pulled all the poison ivy out, but it's stunted. This one has plenty of poison ivy, but the poison ivy doesn't affect it nearly as badly as grapevines. We'll get to one in a minute. More poison ivy in this one here. And you can see it's dying back. This is what I did yesterday, pruning all these trees here yesterday. Now here's one that had significant grapevine in it. So you can see here's a grapevine. And this is only 4 years of grapevine. So it really hinders the growth and development of the trees and their overall health, their longevity. And these are approximately 4-year-old grapevines, because that's it. That's the caliper of them. And it goes on the rest of the way down. So if you watch in some of those videos, I've shown diameter of the grapevines being 8, 10, 12 inches in diameter. And there are multiple factors with every decision-making process that we go through. But with the grapevines, as the grapevine, all right, so one, I'm going to get to this and try and articulate this well. So grapevines root very easily. The other thing is, if the grapevine comes in contact, so let's say the grapevine starts 3 trees down from here, and it grows up and it just comes across and it works its way through each one of the trees. And when those vines hit the ground, that sends down roots as well. So a grapevine can take up 2 acres of land because of it going down. The other factor that we have here is we have all of the damage due to the emerald ash boring insect that has destroyed so many of our white ash trees. And as a result, the grapevine canopy gets so thick amongst the maples, the oaks, and all of those ash trees, which were a predominant species. They're a pioneer species here in our property. And as they died off and they fell over, the grapevine canopies came down and hit the ground. And over a 20-25 year period, those grapevines became encompassing as many as 60 trees with multiple root zones for that single grapevine, if you will. And they were so prolific that they completely cut off the photosynthetic abilities of the underlying trees below them. And when we have our heavy snow and ice storms, that folds those trees over and bends them down, even though they're still alive. Well, once they get folded over, the photosynthetic abilities, along with the grapevines shading out the sun so that photosynthesis can no longer occur, similar to, you know, a tree that's been completely covered. Now, so like I said, it's less than 5% of the trees that I feel that I have to pull those grapevines down from after cutting them off. Once you cut them off, the saprophytic organisms are going to break that down as well, and that causes disease in the leaf structure of the other trees that the canopy is on. And you can see that there's actually decomposition. They don't have the thick bark like the rest of the tree, and those diseased branches end up becoming susceptible as well. So I agree with the premise that if you can, cut off the root supply, let the foliage die back, and by all means let it decompose in there. But if the critical volume is so much that it's decreased the photosynthetic abilities of the underlying support structures that are there, then that compromises the ability of that tree to actually survive, especially if there's other trees that are dead, diseased, and dying and falling over in a climate like we have with the very heavy snowfalls and the ice storms. So I hope that makes sense. It's very difficult because the trees are so much taller than the trees that I'm showing here today. And we've had some problem with trumpet vines that I've planted in the past. We certainly have our troubles with the high winds, bending the trees over. We have some troubles. Now, this is a tree that had blown over, and I've got stakes here holding it up. But the Virginia creeper is encompassing this one. This is one that I cut the grapevines from last year, and I killed the grapevines from this and pulled some down. But you can see now we have the bindweed going up in it, and this tree is just about dead as well. So that grapevine that was in this one, and there's still pieces of it down in here, actually was up in this. And you can see there's an ash tree volunteer here. You can see that there's the bindweed making its way up in there. There's still a little bit of life with some poison ivy up there as well. So I still have my work cut out for taking care of these. And it is a very good question as to why in hell would I go ahead and expend the time, the energy, the fuel, the use of the equipment to tear these grapevines out of the trees that are there. And my goal wasn't to create an opening in the forest. I needed to get rid of all of those damaged trees, and that's where we created the hugelkultur pits in that area. So I thought I'd make this video to try and address that issue. And I think today I'm going to go ahead and get on Mini Me, pick up these guys, and if it's the weather permits, I will continue down the rest of this line and see if I can get the trees under control. Sometimes things look like a mess before they can look better, and we'll do our best to salvage all the trees that we can along the way. So again, a shout out to the family. It was good seeing everyone yesterday. Enjoyed that, and but it's time to get to work. Thanks so much for watching. Have a super fantastic day. Bye-bye now. That's it, camera.